Hi friends, my name is Mackenzie, also known as Emtothethird, and this is episode 35 of the Emtothethird Knitting Podcast. I'm coming to you from Portland, Oregon, where it is cloudy today, and that's kind of what the entire week is looking like, but the weather is definitely, like the temperature is definitely higher than it was last week when we got a bunch of snow overnight, which is apparently very bizarre for this time of year. So I've got a few finished objects to talk to you about, including this a cutie sweater that I am wearing. I'm excited to tell you more about that, but first let me do a little bit of like housekeeping type stuff. So first, there is a Slack channel for this podcast and viewers of the podcast. We have 2 virtual knit nights a month. The first one is a general knitting hangout, which is usually on a Friday evening Pacific time, and we've been doing it basically the entirety of the pandemic, and it's been just a total blast. So if you are interested in joining us for that, definitely head to the link down below and join us over there. And we also are now doing a second monthly Zoom hangout that is specifically a like support group for people who are making their own clothes and making sort of their own wardrobe at large. That has been really awesome. We've all been thoroughly enjoying that aspect of it. So if either of those things interest you, as long as a community that's like super into Wordle and just sharing projects that is a little bit distanced from Instagram, definitely head over there. There's a lot of camaraderie. I'm really grateful for that community, and yeah, so that link is always down below if you want to sign up. There's no obligation, but it's a really great group of people. The second other little piece of information that I want to mention at the top of the show is that I have started a Ko-Fi account. So Ko-Fi is a way for you to support creators like me who are making content on the internet. If you've enjoyed it, it's basically like a little tip jar that you can send me a few bucks. You can sign up to do it monthly, but you can also just do like a one-off little $3. So from here on out with the podcast, I'm going to start including that link in the bio and mentioning it at the top of the show and at the end of the show. And I'm also kind of incorporating that into the Slack channel and into our monthly knit nights. I'm trying to recognize the labor that I am doing by putting out these podcast episodes, and also by hosting the knit nights, because I have been doing it for a couple of years now. So yeah, starting that. Yeah, it's a super simple way to support creators whose content you enjoy. I'm sure if you watch other podcasters frequently, you'll see them having mentioned it too. So yeah, if you feel so inclined, I'd be really grateful for the tip. And yeah, so the way that the podcast episode is going to go is that I'm going to talk about my finished objects, then I'm going to go into works in progress, and then at the very end of the show I will do sort of like a shop update. I'll put little markers in the timeline so that you can kind of skip around, and yeah, that's kind of how it has been going. It's been going. I've been doing a lot less video content than I have done like in the past, just because I'm busier, and I think it makes more sense to be putting out the one longer episode per month, and I've been sticking to that. It seems like you all have been really enjoying that. I can kind of get a little bit more in depth per video than like a bunch of videos where I can't sometimes remember what I was talking about. That might change in the future, but for now that's what's feeling good. So that's the way it's going. Yeah, so thanks again for being here, and let's talk about finished objects. So of course the first finished object we have is this cute cardigan, which really was a quick knit on my part, and that was intentional. So if you'll remember the last podcast episode, I sort of showed you some plans that I had in my little notebook here, and those plans were, oh wait, this is the wrong notebook. I showed you my notebook that had some of my plans in it. One of them was this sweater, which is a very popular crew neck cardigan sweater. I'm sure you have seen it on Ravelry and made by some, other Knitstagrammers. I would say I wouldn't recommend the actual pattern. It is not very size inclusive. It was just right to fit me, and I sort of knew, like, I picked up and knit the pattern knowing all of these caveats, that like I was the biggest size within the range, I was gonna have to make adjustments, and that I was just sort of like doing my own take on it. And so I'm like, if you know, you know what sweater pattern it is, but you can really do, if you really like the way that this looks, you can do it with any crew neck cardigan pattern. I got 4 skeins of this new La Bien Cori worsted from the store that I work at here in Portland. We got it for the Rose City Yarn Crawl, which I've talked about, and I did pretty good on the yarn crawl with not buying too many goodies, but one of them that I bought was 2 skeins of this dark gray color, which is called Moria. A very funny moment with Maria of Woolen Forest where she was like, look at this skein I bought of Moria, and I was like, definitely thought that that skein was called Moira, because there is another yarn that we carry in the store that is a black color called Moira, and it's named after Moira from Schitt's Creek, the character who wears all black all the time. So I was just like, of course it's Moira, but it is not. It's Moria, after the mines of Moria from Lord of the Rings. So that was sort of a funny, I was like, oh, I didn't even realize until she said it that I had been saying it wrong in my head. So I got 2 skeins of that, and I thought, what if I did a split color cardigan, and the other side was like a bright kind of like fuchsia-y purple. And so I used a skein that we had in the store, but it was a darker purple, and I realized the contrast wasn't as much as I wanted. I did a little swatch and I was like, it's not quite right. So I found another store in the area who also carried Cori worsted, and they just happened to have this color, which is called Lisse, Lisse, and I was like, I think that's what I want. So I ordered 2 skeins from them, and it was really like the perfect sort of like brightness in contrast to this darker color. The other thing that I did was I held this darker gray double with a strand of black mohair, like lace silk mohair. That yarn is from Knitting for Olive, so I had bought some of that for a different project, and I was like, that's what I want. I want there to be sort of like this textural difference between these 2 sides in addition to the color difference. So basically all I did was at the very middle, like center back, I just did a basically like an intarsia switch. So I twisted the 2 strands around one another and then just kept going and just followed the pattern. Let me show you what the back looks like. So it's split right down the back. And I'll show you the inside of it in a second too. So yeah, so that's like basically the big adjustment that I made, which just totally changes the vibe of the cardigan. I also just sort of on a whim added a couple little pockets, one on each side. They're sort of useless pockets. They're very small. Like my phone does like technically fit, but they're so weak, and so like sometimes I'll put my phone in and then I realize you can like see the screen completely through it. But sometimes all I need is like a place to put my phone while I'm walking the dog, and it does allow me to do that. It was just kind of like, I do think it adds something to the design even if they're not fully functional. So yeah, I'm super happy with that. And then I really truly almost ran out of yarn. I think the end that I had left was like this once the ribbing was done. And I could tell I was running out. I still had quite a bit of the pink because I hadn't swatched with it, and I didn't do the pocket inside with the pink. So I did have fewer yards of the gray left. So I decided to do this like stranded color work hem here, and I'm happy I did, because it kind of just like ties the whole thing together, because you've got the little peak of the black in the pocket along with the buttons, and then on this side you've got the little pink of the peak of the pink, pinky purple, whatever you want to call this color. So yeah, I'm super happy with how it came out. It sort of fit all of the criteria I was hoping that it would hit, which was like a garment that is very wearable with my wardrobe. It definitely is. Been wearing it kind of nonstop. Something that felt more like an instant gratification project, which I roll my eyes because it is knitting, and 3 weeks still feels a lot better than like several months to finish something at this point. So it definitely like sort of like satisfied my need for a new garment. And the other, I did also want to mention, the other thing that I did was I added increases to sort of give it more of an A-line shape on the body. So at the side seam, I did 4 increases front and back, just to let it sit, you know, just to accommodate my hips. And I think that that really worked, and I'm going to be doing that in sweaters more frequently. So yes, I'm very happy. It like coordinates with my hair even at the moment, and like I said, I've been wearing it nonstop. I need more cardigans for sure in my life that I can wear really easily, and yeah, I'm super happy with this FO. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Just leave a comment down below. And I'll also leave some links for top-down raglan sweaters that are more size inclusive, that more patterns down below that I'd recommend instead of this one, because again, the grading of it was, I found very frustrating. So I'd rather steer you in a direction that is more size inclusive than this one. Okay, so last month I shared with you this spread. So I finished this guy, and then I'm actually casting that on soon, but I have not cast it on yet. And then I also talked about this one, which was, a lot of you were super gung-ho about the idea. It was for a concert that I'm going to in June, and like, I like the idea, but let me show you my swatch and show you why my sort of enthusiasm got dampened. And thanks for all of your comments regarding my kind of like musings about planning projects and not following through with them. I like that so many of us, I think it served mostly as a reminder to like let things go and be more willing to let things go, because there's no point in sort of like trudging through things that we don't enjoy doing. So yeah, in sort of a follow-up with that conversation, I did want to show you the swatch that I did, which is for that little Western top, and then talk through what might become of it. So I do really love the colors. I had fun sort of playing around with Intarsia. The back of it, my swatch is bonkers. I mean, part of it is that my yarn wasn't right, meaning that I really was just basing it off of color, and I knew that one of the colors, which is this sort of like rusty red color, is it's a mohair silk, it's a single, so it's not going to felt together. When you're doing color work or Intarsia, it's where sticky yarns really thrive. So in comparison to like Jameson, that's like very strictly for color work. And again, I guess I shouldn't say strictly for color work, but it is made with color work in mind. It has that sticky quality where even if you steek it, none of the stitches want to actually come undone. This merino silk that's superwash is basically the exact antithesis of like a Jameson. And I know that, and it sort of makes, especially in having like knit with it just to kind of see how the colors worked out, it reminds me that there are other ways to do a project like this. So I'm not super happy with my swatch and how like the tension is and whatnot, partially just because it is intarsia, partially because of the yarn choices, which I was going based more on color than the actual like fiber content and composition. You know, it's a children's pattern, so I would basically, to accomplish this, design a whole sweater using the gauge that I got from this swatch, and then adjust it to be my size, not even just an adult size, but a plus size adult size. And it's just a lot of work and brain space that I don't have the capacity for, and that's totally fine. So I had a lot of fun like sort of working on this swatch and just seeing what it would come out as. And I think in the future, which hopefully I do have space to make this project at some point, what I would do is actually knit it in the round and hold and catch this main reddish, purpley, whatever you want to call it, brown part, like all the way around. So it'd be in the round, and do stranded color work as opposed to intarsia. And then I would leave this part blank, and this would all be done with duplicate stitch. So that's sort of what, whatever I want to say, I revisit this Western shirt idea, that's how I would like to do it. So yeah, anyway, this is just on the back burner. I just wanted to give you somewhat of an update, so that, again, you're not bereft of the idea, because I know so many of you are excited about it. I'm excited about it too. It's just not the time for it to happen. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that. The second finished object I do not have because it has been gifted, but I do have some FO photos for you and a little gifting photo for you. So I made this cute little cardigan. It was a free pattern on Ravelry, one that just fit the gauge of the yarn that I had. And funny enough, this is the other purchase I made during the Rose City Yarn Crawl. Blue Fiber Company is a Portland area dyer. Many DK sets for us, and our theme for this year, the store theme, was succulents, and so that's what he based the colorway off of. I thought it was super cute, and I knew I needed to knit a little baby thing, so I picked one up to make this cute little baby cardigan, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I do think I've maybe showed it last month on the podcast, but I didn't quite have enough yarn to do full-length sleeves, but honestly I felt like that was fine because we're just going into summer and the baby is due next month. So yeah, I finished it off with the little short sleeves. I think they look super cute, and when I switched between colors, I just did 2 rows of like random stranded, like just sort of trying to help the color blend a little bit more than just like starting it suddenly. So but I didn't really follow a rhyme or a reason, and I think it turned out super cute, the little buttons, and my cousin really liked it, so that's all I can ask for. So yeah, that's another little little project off the needles. I also bought some like little pants from Old Navy to sort of coordinate with it. So I got 2 pairs of those to coordinate with the sweater. And again, I think they turned out super cute. All right. So the last FO that I have is a great segue into the next topic, which is the M3 Sock Stash Along 2022. So that is the hashtag if you would like to know more info about this knit along that is happening over the course of this year. I've had a lot of participants. It's been really fun to kind of keep up with the hashtag on Instagram, and every month I do a raffle of all of the people who have posted basically any picture or reel using the hashtag. So you don't have to have a finished object. You also, even though my goal is to knit 12 pairs of socks over the course of the year, you do not have to be sort of working towards the same goal as me. It's just kind of a supportive knit along to share our sock knitting over the course of the year. So I finished my March socks, which are these back here. I used an older skein of Knit Picks Hawthorne that they had done a special colorway for. I also have 2 socks on this one sock blocker, so let me... Okay, so I've got my 2, oh my god, there's hair. Oh. Okay, so we've got our 2 socks. I used another YouTube podcaster's sock pattern, my friend Susan. She has a sock pattern called Norther, which has been in my library for a long time. And so I used that, and I just think it turned out so cool. The texture, the way the color pooled up top versus at the bottom. Yeah, they sort of like fit together like a little puzzle piece. So yeah, I've had this yarn in my stash for a long time. It's a superwash nylon. Basically the whole hank was like white, but then there was like this little chunk of rainbow, and I had no clue how they were going to pool, but I'm very happy with how they have turned out. And so the first pair of socks that I knit for this year were for me. The second pair was just finishing off that set of yarn that I had. Those were for Kay. That's that pair right there. And then I have all of my stash yarn wrapped up in cute little bundles, and the one I unwrapped happened to be this, which are also for Kay. So now that I have shared them with you on the podcast, they will go into Kay's sock circulation, and I'm sure they'll be very happy about that. And if you've been following me on Instagram or TikTok, then you will have seen already my April skein of sock yarn. But let me go grab that so that I can show you what I've been working on. When I go on vacation, I usually have grandiose plans to work on knitting projects, and most of the time I only end up working on small things. And I find it feels much better to bring like a small project that can just like stay in my bag the whole time than to bring a bigger thing that I need to concentrate on for. So like on our road trip last summer, as well as like some other trips recently, I just bring 1 pair of socks in a little project bag, and I find that that's like the perfect amount of knitting, especially if I'm traveling with family and not other knitters. So I picked my skein out, and it was a self-striping skein, and this is what it's looking like. So this pair is for me. It's very my colors, so surprise, surprise. And I thought because it's a self-striping skein, I decided that I would prefer the stripes to not change size, which means that I did a fish lips kiss heel. I do really like this heel. However, for my particular foot, there's not usually enough depth here. Like it sort of strains the rest of the sock. So because I am aware of that, I was like thinking about this while I was at the airport. I decided to add some stitches just here. So because I'm using this contrast color for the heel, toe, and cuff, when I was doing the first full row of this color, I added 8 stitches along this edge. I'm doing a 64 stitch sock. So the heel usually would happen over 32 stitches, but because I wanted more depth and the way that the Fish Lips Kiss heel works, I added 8 stitches, so I was doing all of that back and forth shaping over 40 stitches instead of 32. And then on the last row coming back down the foot, I decreased all of those stitches again. You can't really tell. I mean, it's a little wonky, but once it's on the foot, you can't tell. And it did just give me that little bit of depth that I wanted. And I think that in the future when I do this heel, I'll continue to add those stitches just to give me some more depth. I also, you can see I did it completely in garter stitch, and that was just also to bulk up the heel, which is where a lot of wear happens. The yarn is, I'll put the maker down below who dyes the yarn, because I know that I'm not remembering it right. Yeah, I can't remember. But I have knit some yarn of hers, some skeins of hers before. I really like her self-striping stuff, and it is either an 80-20 or a 75-25 wool nylon, superwash wool nylon blend. So yeah, I'm excited about those. So that's April sock. We're already more than halfway through April. So hopefully I'll get these done in time. But that leads me into talking about the plans for the next couple months of the M3 sock stash along. So I've got a lot of commissions and shows and etc. to prepare for over the next few months as we get into like Fiberfest season here in Oregon, if that's a thing. And so I thought that for the next few months, instead of doing a full pair of socks, that I would focus on finishing 3 pairs that I have. One is this pair, which I knit during my How Long Does It Take to Knit a Sock video. I'll put the link up there in case you want to check that out. It was a fun video to film. So I am going to knit a friend for this sock. I also have one more that was knit out of my yarn Mezcla and a little sock set that I made for those. That's, I think, downstairs in my sample box, but I want to knit a pair for that. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to knit a second pair for this sock. I shared this sock in the last episode, and I talked about doing kits, but it took longer than I thought it would to get the bags that I ordered for the kits. So in my shop update that's coming up next week, next Friday, the April 29th, I'm releasing this pattern as well as doing pre-orders for the kit. The kit will come with all the yarn that you need, a cute little project bag, a stitch marker, and the pattern. And I thought that for the M3 sock stash along, because it's sort of like a loosey-goosey knit along, where what I mean is that, you know, not everyone's knitting the same thing. You kind of set your own rules, but we're still kind of coming together in community to knit. So I thought that maybe either for May or June we could knit this together. So maybe I will actually do it over May and June, so that if you wanted to knit it out of a kit, you could make sure to have the kit in hand before getting, before committing to it. before starting. You could make sure that you have the yarn that you want. This is all with Emtothethird sock, so it's my custom milled sock yarn, and all the colors are naturally dyed. And let me show you the little bag that I made because I think it's super cute. So here is the little kit. So it has like a little illustration of kind of me, not really me, knitting the socks. They are called the rayas socks, which is just stripes. You get your bigger bundle. It's like a 50-gram skein of this color Hugo, and then 2 25-gram skeins of these two colors. So you get this, it'll be in a little package tucked in. You'll get a hard copy and a digital copy of the pattern, a little stitch marker, and is that all? And the bag, which are custom screen printed for me. So I thought that would be super fun, and that we could do a little knit along all together. Either if you want to put together something from your own stash to knit the pattern, or if you want to purchase, pre-order one of the kits, and we'll get that to you so that you can participate in the knit along. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, so that is FO's whips, sort of trickling into whips with talk of the sock stash along. So moving into whips, I sort of mentioned that I'm going to be casting on that dreamy mohair top from Pom Pom. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to the last podcast episode for more info. But of course I got distracted and I cast on something just completely on a whim. But it's a top-down sweater. I'm using some Spin Cycle as my like contrast stripes, and then I'm using something from deep in my stash for the main body of it, and it is this Hohi Locatelli pattern. Let's see. So it's called Rituals, and basically what I wanted was some kind of like textural element with some color change. So I wasn't sure if that was going to be stranded color work. It turned out that it ended up being just stripes, but I really liked the pattern and I've been thoroughly enjoying knitting it. So yeah, it's very bunched on the needles because I am, like I said, finishing up some of the lace section in order to be ready to separate for the sleeves and body. So I've been talking about this one on my Instagram, so you may have seen me mention it before, but I wanted to talk a little bit more in detail about the main color that I'm using. So I'm using this Deep Stash Swan's Island light fingering weight yarn. It's a really lovely color. There's a little bit of alpaca in it. It was discontinued a long time ago, and I think I bought like a pack of 10 from Webs. And I'm trying to think of anything else I can say about it. The alpaca is what gives it the tint. So the wool that they used is just a white wool, and then they used colored alpaca. To give it this lovely like oatmeal color, and it is called oatmeal. And I did buy a skein from someone off of Etsy just because I was worried. I'm holding it double because the pattern calls for DK weight, and they're not the same color. So I think for the next, so when I'm done with the skein that I'm currently using, I'm going to wind both of those into balls and then hold them together just to kind of disperse the different lots. But yeah, that's kind of what's been occupying my mind. There's not much to see yet, but I will keep you updated, and if you don't already follow me on Instagram, definitely head over there and give me a follow, because I post more frequently, obviously there, but with less detail. I don't know what your preference is, but that's what's up. Let me take a look at my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting talking about anything. So I'm going to jump into talking about the upcoming shop update. If you want to tap out at this point, I totally understand. If you feel so inclined, you can send me a tip through the link down below for Ko-Fi. I really appreciate any support that you're able to send my way. And with that, let's get into shop update. First thing I want to mention that's actually already listed and not specifically for a shop update is the Emtothethird Sticker Club. This is something I've been thinking about. You know, I started doing my business full-time post move to Oregon, and frankly it's been really hard. So I've been thinking about ways to kind of build up a somewhat more reliable monthly income through my business, and this is one of the ways that I thought to do it. So for $10 a month, you get a surprise sticker, a little piece of mail, and some extra goodies. So for the first month, when you sign up, I don't want to show you everything because it should still be kind of a surprise. But you'll get a little mini zine that I wrote that includes a recipe and a playlist and some cute illustrations. You'll get a little stitch marker, and you'll get a special surprise sticker. Then every month I'll sort of pick a theme. I'm trying to think of ways that I can also allow sticker club members to help me pick themes. And you'll get like a cute little envelope towards the end of the month. So once you're signed up, you'll be charged that $10 on the first of every month, and then by the end of that month I'll mail you a little goodie, and then we'll be renewed for the following month. I'm really excited about this. As long as you're in the US, it's $10. If you're outside of the US, you just have to pay the cost of international shipping via a stamp. So it's, I believe, like $11.60 or $11.50. So yeah, I will post a link down below in case that's something you're interested in. And if you don't already follow me on Instagram, stay tuned there, because once they start arriving to the folks who have already signed up, then I'll be posting sneak peeks at the first subscription. But yeah, I've got several months lined up, and I think it's just really cute and exciting, and the zinester in me is very happy to be able to like send out a monthly little gifty via the mail. So yeah, that would be like, that's just such an amazing way to support me and other artists by doing some kind of monthly contribution. So whether you do that through the sticker club, or let me one more time pitch the Ko-Fi account, it's super helpful and amazing. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and I'll definitely talk to you soon. If you missed me between episodes, please give me a follow over on Instagram or TikTok. And yeah, thanks for watching, friends, and we'll talk soon. Bye.